Guys, I wanted to talk about my experience with telling others that my son has special needs. I feel like many people are unaware of just the wide range of different needs out there. But sometimes when you hear the word special needs, your mind goes to a certain place. And I totally get it. Not everybody has experience with special needs. Maybe you have had one experience with meeting someone who had special needs. It's not your own, and so you just kind of assume everyone is like that. But I wanted to share that there's a way to really educate yourself on what it means for people to have special needs. And I think that there's just not one way to see a child or an individual with special needs because there's just so many differences. And so I'm hoping to kind of spread this awareness. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you get into this situation. I find that when I share my son has special needs because it's something that I'm open with, people usually don't know how to respond. Like I said, that's totally normal. But many people tend to think immediately that my son is autistic. Special needs must mean autism, or that he is impaired. And while he might learn differently than other people, I think what's important to get is that there are so many different things that constitute a special need, and that could even just be a learning disability. And so I feel like if somebody is open about sharing that their child has special needs, I think it's okay to say, oh, could you explain, or what type of special need? I personally wouldn't take that to offense. I'm not sure if any other parents would. I just feel like if someone's already open to it, they're welcoming any type of response. And I feel like that's an opportunity to kind of learn. And so, for example, with my son, for some reason too, a lot of people instantly think that special needs means my child's like aggressive. And what's funny is that when he started in school, they hadn't met him yet. And I remember calling and asking if they, were open to a child with special needs, especially if he had help in the classroom. And they said yes. However, they first had to have, met him, which makes sense. They wanted to make sure the classroom worked for him. But I'll never forget, they called me and they said, oh my gosh, your son is so sweet and calm. He seemed to work in the class, and it was almost like they were surprised that he was calm. It communicated to me that maybe they were expecting him to be like off the walls or aggressive. So it just made me think of, again, these experiences that we have with different children who have special needs, and then we kind of categorize them, as opposed to understanding that special needs are just that. They're special, they're different, and each child is different. And I feel like unless you've been in a situation where you yourself as a child who has special needs, or a family member, that it's important to ask questions if you don't know, or try to be mindful of where your mind goes, because it's just a cool way to be. And so I find that I always get kind of a look. I'm not really worried about people feeling sorry for me. I know that might be an instant response some of us get, but this is a role that not only have I stepped into, but I accept. I think more so just spreading awareness. There are different types of special needs, and a lot of the times parents are not open about it, but just know that when we are more open about sharing our views and our feelings on special needs, it becomes more of the conversation, and it's not so weird and taboo to talk about, and it actually becomes easier to cope with if it's something that you might be struggling with. I feel like the more accepting we are of the fact that kids learn differently and they think differently and they might be wired differently, like my son who has a genetic disorder, then we could be more accepting when those kids enter the classroom. I also want to share with you that I never will forget, like 4 or 5 months into the semester, the teacher pulled me aside and said to me that she really respected what I was doing for my son, which was really cool, but that she has found in her classroom over the years that there are many children who struggle but don't get the help they need. And it made me sad, because I thought that if we were more open about sharing our kids and how they learn differently, then maybe we'd be able to pick up on things earlier on and give the kids the help they need. And I say that because, again, sometimes this idea with special needs means, oh, this must mean you have Down syndrome or autism or cerebral palsy, these common categories that people have heard about, but not realizing that there's so many other categories. And like I said, with my son, he has a rare genetic disorder, similar to how a child with Down syndrome might have an extra chromosome. My son had a chromosome deleted, and there's a ton, thousands of chromosome deletion syndrome. There's kids kids who have different learning disabilities and they have sensory processing disorder. There's so many different areas, and I think that when we are more open and accepting of the fact that some kids are just going to approach things differently, that doesn't necessarily mean something about us, but when we're able to then talk about it and be more accepting of it, other people can kind of catch on as well. I know I'm going all over the place, but I just find that if you're open about sharing, then hopefully people can then ask, or you could also just volunteer information. That's what I try to do as well. I've found that there's a lot of support out there, a lot of cool programs out there for all different kids, and I think that when you find out about them, you open up your repertoire, you learn a little bit more. So that's my experience with sharing that my child has special needs. And, I'm trying to be somebody who can show others that when you're confident and open in, what you're dealing with in life, you allow other people to do the same. And I know that it's hard. I know parenting in general is hard. And then you top on, special needs parenting is just a whole different ballgame, but your approach is huge. And the conversation about special needs can be affected by how you approach it. And so if you are dealing with something, if you're not quite sure, if your child's going through something, please don't be afraid to open up and share and seek support, because it's out there and it's all about our children at the end of the day. I'd like to think that in the future, more and more kids are more welcoming of those different learners, as I like to call them, in the classroom. And so at a young age, kids don't know. They're just doing what they're doing. We as adults can control the conversation. And so the way that we talk to our kids about the different ways kids learn, they'll eventually understand that, oh, not everyone is going to be the same as me in my class, and that's pretty normal. I guess as a special needs parent, if you don't have a child who has special needs, educating them that there will always be kids who learn and approach things differently. And as a mom, I'd love it if your child accepts mine, because I know that my child will accept yours. Anyway, thanks for listening to me rant, and I hope to talk to you soon.